You press it already?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, guys? All right.
We live. Yo. We going ham just straight into it. We're just going straight into it. Shout out to Rashidi in the building from RKT Appraisals in the building. Let me get the banner up and all that shit.
Yeah, I'm sending you the link for you to send the YouTube link for your peoples or whatever you want.
Yeah. So today we talking about stop signing these goddamn contracts without, reading these things. So what's your take on that? What's your thoughts on that shit?
I mean, the first thing is the basics, just understanding what a contract is. That your contract is either a written or spoken agreement between two agreeing parties. So pretty much you both talking to somebody trying to sign something, agreeing to a deal you both agreeing to. So that's the first thing. Right. The second thing is that a lot of times, people are signing stuff and have no idea what they're signing. And so you find yourself in deep trouble in a lot of situations. Because if you're signing things you don't know what the consequences are, and then you break that contract, it's a problem. So, for example, we use the most common thing, signing a rental lease whenever you get an apartment. So you got somebody that just signs a year lease not paying attention, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm signing this year lease, but I want to leave in 6 months, or something comes up, or you had a plan in your back of mind that you're going to leave in 6 months. Little do you know, you signed a lease where if you break the contract, you're responsible for the whole entire year, no matter what happens legally. So in that particular situation, how it comes back to bite you is that if you sign that contract now, they can pursue you financially for a whole entire year. So if you paying $1,000 a month and you sign that contract and you got to leave in 6 months for whatever reason, now you on the hook for $6,000 for the 6 months, even if you leave early.
Right. That's crazy. And so do you think, like, let's say, for example, a person's in a situation, because I know this probably happens, let's say when people are trying to do business deals or whatever, and they're like, yo, we need you to sign this contract. And then you're like, all right, well, let me look it over a little more. But then they're like, hey, well, we have a deadline. So, you need to sign this by tomorrow or, tomorrow night or whatever. But that's not enough time for you to really go through the contract, maybe take it to a lawyer or whatever. Do you suggest that a person's just like not sign it and just be like, I'm not fucking with it? You feel what I'm saying? Or
absolutely. Absolutely. So that's the other thing though. Stop feeling pressured to sign something. Right. Because listen, like they say, when you sign on that dotted line, you're done. Right. You know what I mean? Right. So in that particular situation, like you said, Ms. Locario, if legitimately, if it's not enough time to sign a contract, not enough time for you to read it, not enough time for you to understand it, do not sign it, because like I said, once you sign it, you're now legally agreeing to something, and you will face the consequences if you can't uphold your end of the bargain. You know what I mean? Right. And I mean that happens in everything, man. I mean that happens from the lease is the basic one with a rental lease, but I mean there's contracts for everything. There's contracts for T-Mobile when you get a cell phone bill. If you sign up with a cell phone and you sign a contract to get a phone, a lot of people don't even realize this. You're signing contracts all day, every day with everything you use. When you go to get a cell phone from a carrier, if you get that little tablet and then you don't actually read what the tablet says, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm signing this contract, and you want to leave T-Mobile, a random brand 6 months later, you may be on the hook for an extra $500-$600 for that tablet.
Right.
But on top of that, if you're not reading that contract, you're probably paying retail price for that tablet. So that tablet for $800 at full price, paying $60 a month, and you're on the hook for all that money just because you wasn't paying attention and you want to get the tablet. Plus, just not even reading it, you don't even realize it costs that much money. Right. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example of a tablet I got. The tablet I bought recently, to help run the business, I paid $350 for it cash. Had I went through my cell phone carrier to buy it, they would have charged me $700. Pay $350 cash or pay $700. You know what I mean? Then on top of that, it's not worth anything because these devices don't last more than 2 years anyway. So all that's in your contract too. After 2 years, the device may not work. Right. So you know what I mean? That's important to read actually what you're signing and paying for.
Right. Now that's some real stuff, because I think what's interesting is that there's times where in situations And I think, like you said, a lot of times it happens on different situations. Like you go to the doctor, sometimes you have to sign a bunch of papers, and you're like, but I want to make sure I get my doctor visit right. But then at the same time, you got to make sure you sign them. So my thing is there a way for people to become more educated on contracts, or do you think that some of them are too complicated to where you might need like somebody like assistance with a lawyer or something, or does it depend on the severity of the contract? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so Mr. Lars, so honestly, that's all of the above. To be honest with you, all of the above. It's one of those things where, truth be told, if you don't understand the contract, the very next step is asking the person that's asking you to sign a contract to explain every line in detail.
Right.
If that person can't explain that, get their boss to explain it, because you don't have to sign something that you don't know. And if they're giving you something to sign, they need to know what you're signing to. The next level after that is if the person that knows what the contract means reads it to you. It's one of those things where you now have to trust that person's word if it's a company or that type of thing, to see that to understand that they know what they're explaining to you. And so you really got to gauge, do you trust that person enough? Do they sound confident in what they're saying? And does it make sense? Then the next level is getting a lawyer and things of that nature. Because if it is complicated, you want to make sure what you're signing. I mean, because like I said, you could be signing a lot of things. I mean, again, I'll give you personal experience. These days, like I said, with companies, they don't really give you a lot of information. Nobody explains nothing. The other day when I was at the eye doctor, you know what I mean? I had to get a shot in my eye, whatever the case was. And then the girl, the girl at the counter just gave me the form to sign. Right. And me, myself, I was about to sign. I was like, hey, let me read this. So it was saying on the thing with the eye doctor, give me a little treatment of my eye, or, there are chances. It's a very small percentage chance that something could go wrong. You are willingly and knowingly signing this document that if something goes wrong with blurry eyesight, is not on our responsibility. So, crazy. You know what I mean? I started asking questions like, wait, can I go blind? She was like, no, well, I don't think you could go blind. But I was like, but you don't sound really sure right now. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to be a baby, but these are my eyes. Right. And she's like, well, what I'll do is I'll get the eye doctor to come in and explain everything. And then the eye doctor went over, no, you'd be fine. It's actually a 3% chance of this happening, and the only way it happens. And he really broke it down. And I was like, all right, cool. But of course, I felt even more uncomfortable. I don't want to do a surgery. And he asked me that. He was like, hey, I don't want to do a treatment on you if you don't feel comfortable. And I was like, nah, based off your response, it actually makes sense. So therefore, I'll go ahead and proceed. But that's the point of it all, is that, mentally, people got to be uncomfortable being comfortable asking those uncomfortable questions, because at the end of the day, when you agree to something, you hit. Because on a more serious level, if it was a real surgery or something like that, you go in and you sign the documents, and somebody's fixing something in your leg, and you're an athlete, and they mess something up, you done lost millions of dollars, but you signed, so now you can't even sue them. So not only did you lose millions of dollars, but you can't even sue them. So, and you lost your leg. You know what I mean? So that's why it's huge to really know what you're signing and things like that, because there's always potentially alternatives or other options that they may be able to give you. You know what I mean? And you may be able to weigh options.
Yeah, I think a lot of times too, it's people's egos stop them from getting help with the contract or asking, what does this mean? You know what I'm saying? Or what does the word mean? And what does that mean to this thing? Because even what's funny is, even when I be on websites, like if I sign up for like a website like a dating app, or even like a fucking a fitness app, whatever, I look at the term service. I'll be at least skimming through this shit because I want to see what the fuck they talking about. Because you know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, they could say, because like let's say you paying for it, right? And you might pay for it, and you think you're only paying a one-time thing, and then in the thing it says like every 6 months you're gonna be charged this, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't even know that. You see what I'm saying? But you signed up for it. And then you're getting money out your joint every 6 months, and you didn't even realize that was happening, but you didn't realize it because you didn't read the terms of service. You know what I'm saying? So exactly, it's crazy. It's crazy how that works. And do you think that companies like kind of like hope that happens, where people don't necessarily, they sign it, but they don't necessarily go deep into reading it, because then now they have your signature or your consent, so that they're covered, but then you're on the back end like shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you think like companies want that to happen or not? What's your opinion on that?
Mr. Lucario, absolutely. It's actually you're actually trained to do that. Right. Let's look at car sales, for example. You notice whenever you're doing a car sales and you get to the desk, they start off telling you one price. Oh yeah, your payment's going to be $432 a month. Next thing you know, by the time you get to the desk and start signing papers, they're like, oh, it went up to $473.52 because of the real numbers got crunched.
Right.
Notice while you're signing, they're talking to you.
Right.
Down to the point where you get to the finance person, they're talking to you to distract you from looking at everything you're signing for. Because if the car salesman's contract is perfect, because it's a long, giant contract, and all of a sudden you look at all these fees, and they're talking to you, distracting you, so you're not paying attention to all these fees you're signing for. All you see is this final number. And so if you're buying a car for $20,000, but then after it's all said and done, the grand total is $31,000. Now you say, wait a minute. But if they're talking to you, you're not paying attention, you're just signing, and all you care about your payment. So yeah, that's massive, and actually it is a tactic that people actually do to distract you from what you're signing for, because believe it or not, it's their job to explain every detail line. And the example I just gave with a car sales is that there's a lot of fees, and sometimes there's fees that they can remove. They got fees where you don't even know where you sign up for a car, where you're getting a cleaning package for $1,000. Like they shine your rims and all this type of stuff, and they just include it in there.
Right.
And granted, it's up to you to see, like, I don't want this package. And you got to ask direct questions like, hey, is this required? Like, but if you didn't even read the contract or see it, you would have never addressed it. So that's why when you go to go get your car service, they want to do all this extra stuff, and you realize you got all this added additional stuff, and you don't even know if you have some of the stuff sometimes because you don't know what was in your contract. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Right. So do you think that, like, let's say somebody signs a contract of whatever it is, and then they realize, like, shit, like, I want to get out this contract. So, like, are there ways to get out the contract to where it's not going to be any penalties, or can they get out of it, but they still got to pay something? So, like, let's say, for example, you got that guy that makes the, on the lease, he's supposed to do a year thing. He moves out 6 months, and now he owes like $6,000 rent because of, he broke the lease, whatever. What can he do to be like, shit, I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to have to pay that 6 G's. You feel what I mean? Or do they just have to? Like,
So I mean, to be upfront, there's always a way out of something. You know what I mean? There's always a loophole out of something. The problem is in that particular situation, if you don't know what that loophole is,
right,
you now actually have to research that loophole.
Right.
And then now you might have to get somebody legal involved. So, for example, what happens in that scenario, and I know about this scenario because with finances that I handle and credit and all that type of stuff, is that if you're in the lease, then they'll let you out in very extenuating circumstances. So you'd have to fight it, then take it to court, and then from there, if it's a very extremely extenuating circumstance that you can't help, then you can get out of it. But most times in that type of situation, something like, okay, I got COVID and I lost my job. Like, if there's only 1 or 2 loopholes.
Right.
But if you don't know that's a loophole, you know what I mean? You're at a disadvantage because there's a timeline to everything. Right. So in that perfect example, 6 months in, you got to go, but you only have legally within 30 days to actually respond to the court. But if you miss that deadline, then you're hit. So there's always a way around something, but it's much harder if you're not prepared. Because if you're prepared and you knew that was a loophole, you already know what time it is. Like, it's 6 months in, man, I know the loophole is this technicality. I'm not saying commit fraud, nothing like that, but if you know what the technicality is, you know how to get out of the situation to a certain degree, and you'll do some digging and find your way out of the situation.
Right.
Versus just not knowing nothing, just signing stuff willy-nilly, and then missing deadlines and not knowing how to get out of it. And now you're stuck, and they will pursue you. Because let's just think about it. A lot of these things you signing, they taking money, they garnishing your wages. They could take you to court. They could put it on your credit. So this could affect you in many ways for a long period of time. You know what I mean? So that's why it's crucial in at least knowing what you sign at the very least.
Right.
Because the repercussions is not a game.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So do you think, or I should ask this, if you're a person who is creating a contract for someone else, so let's say you're a landlord, or let's say you're creating a contract for someone who's going to work freelance for you, whatever, are there things that are illegal to put in a contract and have someone sign it and then sort of hold them to that thing? Like, is it like anything goes? Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's say I'm like, yo, I'm a fucking a landlord and I'm trying to rent this room to this lady. Is this young, cute 24-year-old girl, and I say, listen, in the contract it says you have to clean my house once a week in a bikini. Like, you know what I'm saying? Can I get her to sign that? And then, like, if she don't adhere to that, can I sue her? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm being extreme, but I'm just asking, like, can a person actually do shit like that in a contract? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So to answer your question, absolutely you can. You know what I mean? You can't go to those extremes.
Right.
What happens is, though, you do got to know the law, because there's always something. What becomes a mandate is something that happened or somebody got sued for something. So in that particular situation, you can get her to do everything in the bikini. But if there's some type of law or loophole that says that you specifically can't get somebody to do something in bikini, and you didn't know about that, and you put it in the contract, she still signed it, but then that's where it gets muddied, where she can wiggle out of it through potentially a technicality.
Right.
So yes and yes. But a lot of times the contracts, like, if it's not like really put in there specifically, then at that point in time, like 9 times out of 10 you can get out of it. But if it's some type of mandate or law that somebody got sued down the line and they put it in like state statute such and such and such, then that person can get out of it. But for the most part, if it's not in the contract, you can get out of it if it's not specified. That's why a lot of times these days it's a sue happy world. Everybody getting sued for everything, and every little baby detail. So if you the person writing the contract miss details, you can screw yourself over, and vice versa. The other person not paying attention was in the contract, they can screw themselves over.
Wow, that's why you got to be careful when you sign these contracts. You be, you know what I'm saying, like signing up for some stuff you don't know about, you know what I'm saying, or you didn't think was going to happen. That's crazy. You know, that's crazy. But that's why I think it's very important for people to pay attention and be very aware of what's going down. Because I think sometimes what happens is that out of desperation and out of wanting something, like you might want a car really bad. You're like, just I'm gonna sign whatever to get this car, or I'm gonna sign whatever to get this apartment, I'm gonna sign whatever to be a part of this company or whatever it is like that. And you don't really know all the ins and outs. And then later on, you're stuck into some like situation. Because I know it happens a lot with dudes in the music industry where they sign all these contracts and they're like, oh man, and then they start bitching and moaning about the label and this and this and that. But it's like you signed that. You know what I'm saying? Like
exactly. That's the perfect example. Let's go even further with the current contract issue with Aaron Rodgers and Ben Simmons. You know what I mean? Ben Simmons is in a situation right now where he doesn't want to play for Philadelphia, if y'all follow sports, for the Sixers. And now he's in a situation where he wasn't paying attention to the contract. He just got a fat, I think, $150 million deal for 4 years. He's like, I'm not showing up to camp. They can find me, whatever, do whatever. Right. And so he was saying he had psychological issues. But because he didn't read his contract, the Philadelphia 76ers took it to the extreme and fined him $370,000 a day for every time he does not talk to their team therapist. Wow. So at first, he got charged $370. Guess what? It came up on the news today. He sat down with that therapist. But the point is, he didn't read his contract. Right. It cost him $370,000. You know what I mean? So just like you said with rappers, that's the most common. Where look what happened with the Locks and P. Diddy. Right. They begged him to get him out of contract. He had him for like 4 or 5 albums. Right. Like where they stuck. And on top of that, getting low percentages. So that the rap one is a perfect one, because a lot of rappers where they sign in like 4 or 5 deals where they only getting maybe about 20% of the profit. Then on top of that, they got to even pay back some of the money they do when they traveling with hotels and all that type of stuff. Don't even realize it because they just signing away, and they get free promos with chains and little cars, and so they think they fine, not knowing they signed somewhere like you got to pay that back, and you're only getting about 10-15% of the profit, man. Right.
So all of that shit combined is just that's crazy. So this is what I'm saying, guys. I got to understand that it's important to pay attention, because also this is a thing about responsibility. You got to be responsible for your situation, because then at the end of the day, the fact that you signed it is kind of like you can't blame nobody else because your name is on the dotted line. You know what I'm saying? But But I know we have to keep this show short. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up real quick as far as like contracts and things people need to look out for and everything like that?
Yeah, man. At the end of the day, don't sign anything you don't understand. Keep it very simple. And if the person that's asking to sign something can't explain it, definitely don't sign it. Ask the questions. Be uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. Even if it's a 10-page document and it takes 6 hours to sign, 6 hours to read and go through it, take that 6 hours. Because once you sign something, once you sign on the dotted line, you're done. That's my message.
Facts. So anything else you want to say, Miles, before we get up out of here?
No, I'm good, man. Save the children.
All right, people. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Make sure you share this video, share all the videos on this channel so we can get more people watching this channel. And we will holler at y'all later. Peace.